Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Lambert Mbom. I am the Executive Director of the Southern Cameroons Medical Society. Today, we want to welcome you to this very special edition. A special edition because we are going to be dealing with something special. It is COVID-19. We know many people, you've heard many things about COVID, so much confusion in the air. People do not know what to believe. Today we have the Southern Cameroons Medical Society coming to address this pandemic. With me in the panel today, we have Dr. Fausta Ditah and Dr. Maryline Feh. They are going to, for the next 1 hour, be discussing different aspects of things that we believe people in ground zero, people in ground one, people across Africa, what they need to be doing in order to combat this COVID-19. We believe that collectively we need to do something, but personally and individually, we have to take that responsibility. When each person takes a responsibility to combat this COVID-19, then that translates into a collective effort, and we will be able then to ward off what has befallen us in this 2020. Before we get into this, it's important to explain what the Southern Cameroons Medical Society is. The Southern Cameroons Medical Society is a civil society made up of medical doctors, medical practitioners across the world who have sympathies or who originate from the part of the world called Southern Cameroons. This is not a political organization. The emphasis is on the medical society. Its aim is to contribute towards building up the badly needed medical infrastructure in Southern Cameroons. And it is towards this end, towards this goal, towards this vision that we are coming out today to address this pandemic of our time. Over the last weeks, I think the last 6 weeks, we have seen and heard about the deaths even of medical doctors. We know the one that hit us hard is that of a prominent medical doctor in the Northwest region. He was one of the best. He headed, I think, was in charge of the fight against tuberculosis in the Northwest region, and unfortunately was hit by COVID and gave up. If a medical doctor who would have taken all the precautions, everything that he needed, could be attacked by COVID, then we know that there's nobody who is spared. COVID knows no age, knows no race, knows no riches, knows no status. It attacks indiscriminately. And therefore, each one of us must take that responsibility. Again, I want to thank Dr. Fausta and Dr. Maryline for graciously accepting to be part of this campaign. And I want to welcome you all, and I'll give them time to introduce themselves, what they do, and opening remarks. Dr. Fausta.
Thank you again, Mr. Lambert, Dr. Maryline, fellow viewers of this live broadcast. Thank you for spending a portion of your day and sharing the experience of upgrading and updating our knowledge as it regards to COVID-19 and the healthcare in particular, focus towards people of the Southern Cameroons extraction in particular and the world in general. Over the past several months, the world has been hit hard by a pandemic that has had multiple epicenters pop up around the world with devastating consequences. Today, we of the Southern Cameroons Medical Society come to partner with you and share our understanding of this knowledge so that collectively we can make the experience easier. As Mr. Lambert just alluded to, COVID-19 knows no riches, knows no poverty. It transcends country and regional lines, transcends race. It affects everyone equally, though some populations are more heavily affected than others. So I think this edition and this broadcast is important to everybody. If not to you directly, you may pick up on something that will become very beneficial to your neighbor, to your uncle, to your grandmother, and to a friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to this broadcast about COVID-19 from the Southern Cameroons Medical Society. And thank you, Dr. Feh, for being a part of this panelist.
Dr. Maryline, your turn.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Maryline Feh. I am actually an epidemiologist and a founder of Interis Health. I have a vested interest in disease prevention, and I strongly believe that with this COVID-19, prevention is better than cure. Like Dr. Fausta said, COVID-19 has no boundaries. Yes, it is true also that the elderly with low immune system are affected more, but also the young ones, we're seeing the young ones also getting affected. When I say the young ones, I'm even talking up until children, babies, they're getting affected with this COVID-19. People with ailments like diabetes, low immune system, cardiovascular problems, asthma, you all have a high risk of dying from this COVID-19 if you don't take the precautions now to prevent getting sick. So as members of this society, we are here to really educate our community back home and help them to really understand the importance of making sure that you do everything that you can do at a primary level to prevent getting COVID-19, to prevent getting sick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maryline. So, Dr. Fausta, I mean, we talked about this some other time earlier on when this pandemic hit, that like with HIV/AIDS, there's always a myth that comes up. People always come up with ideas of what this is. People who are living in denial. We talked about many things that people were denying at the time. We are living in the tropics. The heat there is going to be. What is the current situation you think of COVID-19 in Cameroon and back home?
Mr. Lamed, as you alluded to, hindsight is always 2020, and back then we were very clear that this stuff knows no boundary. When before it really hit us hard, we had these alarming statistics coming out of Brazil, which is a tropical country, and even before then we had alarming statistics also coming out of Australia. That was in the heart of summer when COVID-19 hit. At that moment, I felt confident and comfortable projecting that we in Africa, though we may have the beautiful climate, are going to experience similar consequences. Even in the United States, there was this fallacy that we expected to wane during the summer months. Again, when I projected what was happening in Brazil and Australia, it was clear to me that the summer months will not make a significant difference. Time has proven this to be true. And back home, as you alluded to, one of our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Ogok, from the Bamenda Regional Hospital, who was the director of the tuberculosis program, succumbed to COVID-19. One of our prominent Southern Cameroonian lawyers, Barrister Sama, also succumbed to COVID-19. And these are just examples that I hope will relate to everybody. But as you would know, it affects everybody equally. The statistics in Cameroon are alarming, while not confirmed. While the results are not highly accurate because of the lack of the evidence and the data, we feel confident and comfortable saying uh, COVID-19 permeates very extensively in Cameroon as we speak, and it's killing at an alarming rate, killing young, vibrant, healthy people that you would wish if they had heeded to a call, we can at least curb down on some of these deaths.
Thank you. Dr. Maryline, looking at the situation, who are the most vulnerable? I know we have all emphasized that this thing cuts across ages, there's no status. But then looking at the population in Cameroon, looking at the population in the northwest and southwest regions, who are the most vulnerable? I mean, we know about the old people and all that, but who are those who are most vulnerable at this time?
Right. So the ones that are most vulnerable are the elderly or individuals with low immune system. Those who have underlying conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, cardiovascular or heart disease, those with asthma, those with COPD. If you're a smoker, if you're somebody that takes any form of tobacco, if you are a drinker, you drink alcohol on a regular basis, or even if it's not on a regular basis, even if it's just once a week, if over time the alcohol has affected your system, has affected your lungs in particular, that can have a detrimental effect if you do come across COVID-19 or if the COVID-19 enters your system. The young ones as well are vulnerable, especially those that their immune system has not been built up yet. And so those ones are highly should be very, very careful. We also have individuals that are in their 30s, their 20s, that get the infection. Unfortunately, we are seeing some of those actually, unfortunately, dying from this COVID-19. There are some that are with a strong immune system that are fighting it and have been able to survive from it. So again, the most important point here is that those with low immune system, those that have underlying conditions, really need to be taking their medications, need to be up on their multivitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, which will also help them to combat it in case they do get infected.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you, Dr. Fausta. Let's come back to you. I mean, we call it a pandemic, COVID-19. What actually is COVID-19?
And let me wrap up a thought on what Dr. Maryline said before, and she's spot on about those disproportionately being significantly or with more significant disease being those with pre-existing conditions, the vulnerable, and as she puts it, those with weakened immune system. She's referring to people who, for example, have cancer and are receiving chemotherapy, who have diabetes, high blood pressure, or heart disease, people with sickle cell, people who are elderly, or even if you're young and you have pre-existing conditions, not everybody who is in their 20s is ready to get out there and run a race. So all of those people are going to be disproportionately affected and be at a higher chance to have an adverse outcome. For those in the Western world, you hear us talk of if you live in a nursing home, if you're in the hospital, those are people that, again, have proven that they're starting the race with half the amount of energy, or maybe 25% the amount of energy. And so they may easily peter out. Now, returning to the question you posed, what is COVID-19? Really, viruses have been around, or microorganisms have been around for times immemorial. A virus is a small class of microorganisms that can only survive or can only multiply if they are inside a living cell, if they find themselves within a living cell. So left on their own in the environment, they're harmless, they cannot multiply. But when they get into your system and get into your cells, they can multiply. These viruses are further broken down to explain and represent what they look like. In this case, coronavirus looks like a crown. It's got spikes on itself, and it's even very similar to other viruses that cause the common cold, that even cause influenza. They're similar. Now, the thing that's different from COVID-19 and the other is every virus has its own signature, that identifies its uniqueness. And in simple terms, Lambert, myself, and Dr. Maryline, we are all human beings, but you can each look at us and say we are different, we are unique. So think about viruses in the same way. Now, when it comes to COVID-19, it's that unique group of viruses that has developed this capability to live within us and be transmitted from one person to the other, particularly through the air. When you sneeze, when you talk, and the droplets go out there, or when I leave it on surfaces and you touch those surfaces and then touch your mouth, touch your nose. COVID-19 predominantly starts by infecting and affecting the respiratory system through the nose, through the mouth, down the airways, into the lungs. It's this new genetic signature for this virus was first discovered in 2019 out of Wuhan, China. And since then, because again, the world is becoming a global village, it quickly traveled and spread around the entire world. Traveling to Europe, traveling to the United States, to South America, to Africa, and once it's traveling to all these continents and affecting people in large quantities, we call it a pandemic. It's affecting everywhere and anywhere it finds itself. So in a nutshell, that's COVID-19. It typically manifests in people, by causing symptoms, as I said, that involves the respiratory system. Shortness of breath, feeling exhausted, causing a high-grade fever. People may have a runny nose and things like that. But I imagine we'll return to this because this is the meat, the bone of contention when it comes to COVID-19. And it's by understanding COVID-19 that we should be in a position to then pitch out advice as to how you manage and cope with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. And for the sake of those who are watching, we are listening to Southern Cameroons Medical Society giving an update, education on COVID-19 with specific reference to the situation in Cameroon. Dr. Maryline, so again, we have heard about this it's a respiratory disease, airborne. This we have lived with all this for a while, isn't it? Everybody has had an occasion to have a cold, a flu, and all that. If you lived in Cameroon, you constantly coughed, you picked up that every season, rainy season, dry season, you had that. What's new about this?
Well, interesting enough, what is new with this COVID-19? It's really the way that it's attacking the lungs. Like you said, we've had us, especially us from Cameroon or Africa, we tend to have a stronger immune system in a sense because we've been around all kinds of, microbes, that have come into us. We've been around, dirt, dust, and so different microbes that lounge in those environments have entered our system, and so we've been able to combat any kind of virus, in the past. Some obviously have died from it, like malaria. But a lot of us have combated it. So you would think that our immune system is strong enough to combat anything. But unfortunately, this COVID-19 is different. It's very, very different in the sense that even those with semi-good immune systems still get infected and unfortunately still die from it. And so because it's very new, the scientists are still doing a lot of research on it. New things come out. some of them, unfortunately, are not true in a sense, because a new research can come out and get published, and then tomorrow something else come out and gets published. So all of us are really confused at this point as to really what's up with this COVID-19. However, we do know for sure that as soon as it attacks our lungs, that is when, symptoms, some serious symptoms like respiratory system starts to take effect. And right now, pharmaceutical companies are doing their best to try to come up with a medication that can combat it, that can prevent, the attachment of the viruses to our lungs, or even prevent the replication of the viruses. Because when it attaches to our lungs and starts to replicate, that's when we can start experiencing serious issues like the virus, preventing our effective blood from flowing into our arteries. It can result in clots. It can result in us having serious aneurysms in our brain because of blood clots, simply because the blood is not flowing effectively due to lack of oxygen. So it's very different. There's still a lot of work that is going on. There is a vaccine that is being tested at this point. But until then, we have to do what we got to do in order to prevent getting sick, or if we do get sick, do something in order to get well, to get cured from it, because a lot of people are dying from it at this point. We can't wait for the scientists to complete their work when it comes to coming up with the with the best medication.
Thank you. And again, just to say that, there's no cure and there's no vaccine, so that makes it even doubly difficult. But before I get over to, I would like to read, we just established one fact. COVID attacks anybody and everybody, okay? And we on the Southern Cameroons Medical Society, we're very privileged that one of our colleagues in the UK, a medical doctor, contracted COVID and shared his experience with us. And I'd like to read what he said. Then we'll transition into Dr. Fausta. Prepare for us. What are some of the symptoms? How would somebody know that they have COVID? Okay, so let me read out what Dr. Kenneth, I'll just use his first name. Dr. Ken said, my COVID experience, no book or article would ever provide to anyone what could only be gained by personal experience. I finally came down with COVID in my new job, acute medicine in Northampton. My initial symptoms were just feeling extremely tired. At first, I put this down to long hours over the course of several days as we were overstretched. This was followed by what I could only describe as internal feeling of fever on my last day at work. I checked my temperature repeatedly, but it was never above 36. I had the next 3 days off and went back to Peterborough and self-isolated in our downstairs room. The next day, I filled in the app and went to the closest drive-through testing facility just 3 miles up the road from my home in Yaxley. The next 5 days were horrendous. Loss of taste and smell, no appetite, extreme lethargy, mild asthma attack, muscle aches, and extreme lethargy again. My test results came back by text and email from NHS England the next day, and they were positive. I got inundated by a plethora of scientific articles from concerned colleagues and a lot of my grandma remedy proposals from my family and friends. I monitored my SATs, SATs, and the lowest they ever got was 93%. Knowing the dangers of being one's own physician, I just stayed put on paracetamol and was ready to ring 999 if my SATs dropped any lower. We had some stock of dalteparin at home, leftovers from when my wife was suspected to have a PE, and I pumped myself some good prophylaxis. I kept up my daily vitamin D and C. Yes, I did give to grandma remedies and managed to accept what to me appeared sensible. I rarely ate raw garlic, and my wife made sure I had 1 tablespoon of the most horrible raw garlic. I gave up this one after 3 days. I did not mind the ginger plus lemon plus honey. I must cite one particular grandma African remedy which made me feel subjectively better. We call it cover medicine. It is quite commonly used all over West Africa for fevers of all kinds. I remember my grandma administering this to me when I was 5 and had to move in to live with her because my dad had been posted to a new job in a village in French Cameroon without any English schools. Basically, it is a sauna of aromatic herbs, the main components being fever grass, lemon and leaves from the lime of lemon tree, guava leaves, eucalyptus leaves, or in its absence, its essential oil. My wife, for some very strange reason, had bought most of the components of this from a Thai shop long before the COVID-19 pandemic and kept them frozen. I was more attracted to the sauna providing relief to my internal fever and feeling of cold in my bones. I stayed there under a blanket, well aware of the dangers of overheating for 10 minutes, got out and cleared off huge amounts of horrible looking sputum. Felt a lot better almost immediately, and my SA02 picked up to 96 to 98%. Dr. Fasenda, you know what to prescribe to your chesty patients. I had daily sessions of this cover medicine for 4 more days. Returned to work after almost 2 weeks, equipped with my very own personal FFP3 masks, was contacted last weekend to see if I could provide some cover in Peterborough. They were still very lethargic and recovering. In that little write-up, we find all the ingredients we could be discussing here today. He talked about the symptoms. He talked about how he self-quarantined. He did a test, okay, and tried out basic medication, paracetamol. And even when he was not feeling better, he tried, in addition to that, vitamin D and vitamin C. And above all else, closed up with the heating, covering himself with that. So let's start off with the symptoms. Dr. Foster, what are the common symptoms? If somebody, because in Cameroon, many people do not have the testing facilities. Before, everybody who had COVID had to either be in Yaoundé or Douala because that's the only places. In fact, they were all in Yaoundé. Then eventually, I think the regional headquarters got them, and now we are getting test results, but people don't have them at home. So what are the symptoms? Somebody who is in a village and is feeling strange, what would push them to think that, hey, maybe I have COVID?
Thank you very much, Lambert. And actually, thank you, Dr. Ken. You know, it is personal experiences like yours that write the textbooks. Don't forget the symptoms of COVID-19 are not harvested from a tree. It's people like Dr. Ken and experiences from other patients we encounter that truly inform us what to be looking out for. As Dr. Ken eloquently put, an experience. And before I go to Dr. Ken, then you would also realize because of our uniqueness, one person is not going to have everything. But by the time you take 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 people, you would have covered everything. But if you start with what Dr. Ken had, he was extremely exhausted. You know, he lacked energy. This is how my little brother put it once. He was trying to drive to go get his test. After driving for 5 minutes, he had to pull over to rest because he felt just so exhausted, even to drive his own car. Dr. Ken also made mention of paying attention to his oxygenation. You know, have you ever been gasping for air? Have you ever been struck? People who swim, have you ever been underwater feeling like you want to breathe and you can't breathe? That's really what some people go through. Now, all this mucus, Dr. Ken said he cleared from his lungs, essentially can coat your lungs and make your lungs feel like they are underwater. And you are gasping for air, you are struggling to breathe. And that next breath is like a heavy 20-ton truck that's been put on you. Some people feel generalized aches. Almost every muscle of the body is aching. Now, if you get an injury to your right hand will hurt. But in the case of COVID-19, your legs ache, your hands ache, your tummy aches. You just feel tired and exhausted, and all of your muscles ache. Some people would have one of its other key symptoms that many people would have is fever. Dr. Ken did not have fever. It looks like his temperature never really went above 36.4, if I remember you reading correctly.
Yeah.
But many people would have high-grade fevers. I mean, I have people whose temperatures jumped up to 40 degrees Celsius. So truth is, fever for many people is one of the symptoms they get. And a lot of people would lose taste. Increasingly, everybody complains about this taste. And even after they've recovered from COVID-19, many people still feel like they do not have a true return of their taste. Every food just tastes blah, if I can put it that way. You essentially have to force yourself to eat. All those dishes you dreamt of, you really wanted somebody to serve to you, and somebody serves them to you. The moment you see it, you lose your appetite. Think about it that way. Everything you see, you lose your appetite. Some people may have nausea, having the sensation of wanting to vomit, and some people actually vomit. Some people may end up with some diarrhea, just as some of his GI manifestations. In serious disease, people don't know who they are. They passed out. Imagine somebody in a deep night sleep that goes on forever. They may not be able to recognize you. Mr. Lambert, imagine a day that you and I you're sitting next to me and I have no idea who you are. And I cannot even talk to you like this. And some people become derealized. They don't know who they are. They're essentially talking out of their mind. So those are a majority of the symptoms. Obviously, some people may have a cough, most starting out with a dry cough, sneezing, and those kind of things. But those are the main symptoms of COVID-19. Now, you ask about testing and things like that. Certainly, these symptoms have to be taken in context. Now, if you have self-isolated, I'm giving this example for my brothers and sisters back in the Southern Cameroons. If you have been self-isolating for a month in your bushes, working your farms, and nobody has left the cities to come visit you, your symptoms will not be secondary to COVID-19, because this is not something you can just catch in the air without somebody bringing it close to you. So you have to also have the appropriate exposure. Because it's a pandemic, if you live in a crowded area, you must always assume that that person next to you could have had it or has it. And therefore, if you have your symptoms at these difficult times, you must be on the high alert. It's almost like saying, gee, I'm sleeping in my house and I hear hoofbeats behind my house. The question you should ask yourself, to my brothers and sisters, are those hoofbeats coming from a goat, or are the hoofbeats coming from a zebra? Because the entire 2020 has made COVID-19 the goat in our backyard. Any hoofbeats in my backyard are going to be the goat and not the zebra that I've never seen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So again, it is important for people to understand that we have established a number of things here. First, and this is something I will come back to, It's a respiratory disease, isn't it? So it affects our respiratory system. And how you contract that, you have to come in contact with somebody who has had it. Coming in contact doesn't, I mean, not necessarily physically. Be in an environment, sneezing and all that, coughing, somebody who has it, you'll be able because of the droplets. One. Number two, the symptoms. They are very common symptoms. The symptoms of fever, I mean, you could have a fever, you could, very many things. The important point here is do not take anything for granted. And I love the analogy you just made, Doc, that because these are common symptoms of things that we are used to, given the current situation, you know that 2020, the big thing in the air is COVID. If you start feeling any of those, your best bet is going to be, let me try check this out to make sure that it is not. Because for many people, they don't live by themselves. They live in crowded environments. And if you are infected, you don't want to infect the next person. And the best way not to infect the next person is by ensuring that what you have is actually not COVID, and so getting tested. Dr. Maryline, do you have anything to add?
Yes. In reference to what you just said, pretty much, again, if you have not been in contact with anybody at all, if you've been isolated in your house, you've not visited anyone, nobody has visited you, and you start to have maybe a fever or just a cough, it might be just a regular flu. You don't just rush and say you have COVID-19 just because, COVID-19 is rampant now and it's a pandemic right now in the world. Going back to Dr. Ken's experience, I just want to touch into some of the things that he used to cure himself from home. As you can see, as a physician, he never went to the hospital. He used alternative medicine in addition to paracetamol to treat himself at home. Paracetamol here in the States is equivalent to acetaminophen, which is pretty much a normal pain reliever. So using the pain reliever or acetaminophen along with alternative medicine, again, when it comes to alternative medicine, us physicians who've been trained to treat patients with medications that have been tested and proven and approved by the Food and Drug Administration. However, alternative medicine have been used by individuals, and some of them turn out to be very effective. And it'll be very important for us and for our community to really look into these alternative medications and see if they can apply to themselves, if at all they come across COVID. For example, garlic, onions, especially the red onions. I did some research a few days ago and came to an understanding, a realization that garlic and onions, they do have compounds that will actually prevent the attachment of viruses, not just coronavirus. They prevent the attachment of viruses and other microbes to the cells. They also have compounds that prevent the replication of viruses. And when it comes to COVID, you start to get seriously infected, or should I say, experience the symptoms when the virus gets into your system and it starts to replicate, starts to divide, and then it becomes rampant into your system, goes into different organs, and you start experiencing all the symptoms that someone with COVID will experience. Dr. Ken had garlic for, I think, 3 days. He didn't like the taste. I myself don't like the taste of garlic, but he did that, as well as applied the steam system, hot steam system that we use back home when we have malaria or other very, very serious fever. Personally, I use the steam whenever I feel as though I have been in contact with anyone or been in an environment where I feel as though maybe I might have been in contact with somebody with a coronavirus. I boil water and I put, because I don't have fever grass here, and some of those other very, very awesome ingredients that they put back home in the steam bath. It's not really a bath anyway. It's just a steam that you inhale. You cover yourself with a blanket and you inhale it. But I do use eucalyptus. For those who are here in the States, Cameroonians that are here in the States, I use eucalyptus and I put a few drops in it in the steam, in a steam bath, and then I just cover myself with a hot blanket. What it does is it actually breaks, if there's any mucus buildup in your lungs, it actually breaks it down, as well as from some readings that I've done, it actually breaks down the walls. If at all there's a virus in the system, it actually, breaks the effects of the walls of the virus. So it kind of prevents attachment into your lungs. I would also like to talk on, there's been a lot of misinformation when it comes to hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine alone, I would like to state this, hydroxychloroquine alone would not cure coronavirus. Hydroxychloroquine alone from research would not cure coronavirus. There's a study that came out that talked of the effect of combining hydroxychloroquine and zinc. And the study helped us to understand that if you take hydroxychloroquine and zinc together, what happens is the hydroxychloroquine will actually help to open the door, open the cells, the walls, in order for the zinc to go in, and the zinc will now combat the virus, will prevent the virus from replicating. So that's another alternative to look into. But again, if you feel as though you have the virus and you're asymptomatic back home, it's better to just try alternative medicine than to wait and get sick and then not know what to do about it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maryline. Dr. Fausta, I know that you have some comments to make, but first, before we get into that part of it, let's touch on the prevention aspect, isn't it? We all have said there is no medication, there's no drug that's going to cure COVID-19. I mean, I can see that Dr. Maryline is pointing to the fact that if you took chloroquine and zinc, I think there's some other thing, I think azithromycin or something like that, a combination. All of them would help to do different things that different people are struggling with. I know there's a conversation about the big pharmaceutical companies and how they are trying to make money and all that stuff, a lot of myths around this. But I want to drill down on one thing. What does it take to prevent people from contracting COVID-19?
Thank you to that. I imagine treatment or management is an important thing that will come up later. When we observe the cycle of COVID-19, then we have to figure out, what does it take from start to finish, so you can figure out where to puncture holes. One, you have to come in contact with it. And how do you come in contact with it? Crowded environments, talking to somebody who possibly has it, the bacteria, the virus, and then sharing it. And then it depends on how it multiplies within you. And so the key things in control, therefore, is how do I prevent it from getting into me? And number two, if it's gotten into me, how do I minimize its propagation, either in me or to the next person? Prevention remains the bedrock of this. Prevention remains the bedrock of containing COVID-19 as best as we know it. And we can definitively say that as an airborne droplet infection, when you are in close association with others, it optimizes the chances that it's going to pass from one person to the next. No wonder you hear people talk of social and physical distancing, meaning I have to stand at a distance far enough from you so that if I talk and speak, saliva happens to get out of my mouth, it would not fall on you. Because if you can stand and my saliva can fall on you, COVID-19 could have also just gotten into you. And so that specification of 6 feet is minimizing the chance that, hey, I can talk, it falls on you. And by the way, the air or the wind can aid it some more to fall on you. Does it completely eliminate it? No, but it drives it down significantly. In abstract terms, think about it like going from a 95% chance of getting something to almost a 5% chance of getting it. That's what physical distancing will do to you. The next thing is there are instances whereby you cannot prevent being close to some people. Back home, our parents go to the markets to shop in open markets. They overcrowd taxis and interurban transport buses to go around. And in that scenario, it is impossible to talk about 6 feet physical and social distancing. Now, the next thing you can then do is control your secretions. Keep them to yourself. Prevent it from spreading the air and going everywhere. And then that's when the mask, the face mask becomes very useful. Wear your mask in such a way that if you sneeze or you talk, all of your sneeze is retained in you. All of your cough is retained in you. All of the vaporized air is retained in you, so it doesn't go out to the next person. And that's how you prevent it from picking it up from somebody. And now once you have it, some of those things will still also apply. Now, if you stay away from the rest of the people, you're not going to pass it to them. It's unfortunate you came down with it, but if you go close to them, you're just going to make a manageable situation terrible by spreading it to everybody. And by the way, by you also wearing your mask, you prevent the COVID-19 from leaving you to your next door neighbor, to your next friend, to your grandma, to your cousin. So by wearing your mask, knowingly or unknowingly, you are helping your next door neighbor, prevent them from getting it. And certainly, some of the things that Dr. Maryline discussed are things to dampen the load in you. I mean, have we had definitive proof that it works? No. But do we also have definitive proof that it does not hurt you? We have extensive anecdotal evidence that it will not hurt you. So at worst, you can try it. Now, let me explain that concept a little bit, Mr. Lambert, if you give me a moment. What happens to COVID-19 is when you get it, it has to build up to a certain critical number to have an impact on you. Put it this way, if you get just one virus, you can contain it and may never come down with the infection. But if you get 100,000 copies of the virus, it may overwhelm your body and push you to come down with the disease. By wearing the face mask, doing all of those things, maintaining distance, you instantly bring yourself down to getting one instead of 100,000. It's going to also help tremendously. And so by doing those things, we're going to help minimize the spread of COVID-19. When you also do this vaporization therapy, and it's also what Dr. Maryline termed steaming, vaporization therapy, just the inhalation and the heat can probably damage some of the viruses and decrease the viral load. And instantly, by decreasing the viral load, you decrease the chance that your sneeze, your cough, your warm breath will be infected by a huge volume of contagion.
Thank you very much. Dr. Maryline, there is, I think Dr. Fausta just mentioned one of the things, prevention, and talked about masks. Do you have something for us with respect to those masks? Because it seems as if many people are not putting on their masks. I know there's a shortage of masks in Cameroon. There are many things, but for those who have masks, what we have seen recently is scary because people actually put them on, but it seems as if, I mean, tell us, what do we need to do?
Yes, so there are different types of it. We have the surgical mask. We have a mask like this, which is surgical mask. We also have the N95 mask. Let me just give you some example. We also have the N95 mask, which is something of this nature. The N95 mask has been known to be more effective. It's used, and if you can get your hands on 95 mask, it's actually the best one. We also have, for those back home that cannot afford to have access to the N95 mask or just the surgical mask, we can actually make our own cloth mask. Now, The ones that are made from cloth, like the one that I have here, it actually has a hole in the middle whereby I put the surgical mask inside. However, again, those who don't have it, they can manage without it. When you put your mask on, you want to make sure that you cover your nose and your mouth. Make sure that you cover your nose and your mouth. Can you see me?
Correct, correct.
Okay. Make sure you cover your nose and your mouth. When you need to take it off to speak, to communicate, take it off. Take it all the way off. What we are seeing people are doing is that they will have it in their chin like this, and they walk around in the streets thinking that they have a mask on. When you have it like this, you're defeating the purpose. The main purpose of having the mask on is to prevent, not only to prevent somebody from spreading the virus to you, but if you do have it, it prevents you from spreading it out when you do communicate to someone. Now, when you have it like this, that's defeating the purpose. It's defeating the purpose, especially those who are in crowded areas. I've seen people like in funerals, burial grounds, large gatherings, having their mask, but it's at this level. It's at their chin level instead of at their nostril level. You want to make sure that you have it at your nostril level to prevent to
Dr. Maryline, I think your line is
Yeah.
we touch surfaces every now and then, and so when you have your mask on, it prevents you from touching your face with your hands. It prevents you from touching your face with your hands, and we normally, have that tendency of wanting to, scratch our eyes or touch our nose or pick our nose or touch our mouth. So having the mask prevents it because our hands can carry microbes. And also, we want to make sure that we wash our hands regularly, especially if we've touched any surfaces or if we've touched someone. Another thing that I would like to also add when it comes to hands, do not shake people's hands because you don't know what their hands have touched, where they've been through. Don't shake their hands. Try to make sure that you do fist bump or use your leg or your feet, better yet, to touch if you're trying to greet someone, and then you go 6 feet or 2 meters apart.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Lambert, please, if Dr. Maryline could just leave her mask in that position so I can comment a few things, it would be nice. I don't know if she can be projected to our audience, and let's use what she did as an example. Doc, just put it underneath your chin. Okay. So brothers and sisters, what's the job of the face mask? Is it a decoration for your face, or is it to help you? And why is face mask useful? Well, we talked of corona being a respiratory virus, meaning it's coming from my lungs and coming out. And how does it get out? It gets out through my mouth. Don't forget, lungs and your nostrils and your mouth meet behind here to then form a combined airway to go out. So when you breathe, it can come out through your nose or it can come out through your mouth. Now, if your mask is down here, how do you prevent what you're saying from being contained? How do you prevent what's coming out, like when you sneeze, from being contained? And number two, you breathe. When you breathe the air from the next person next to you, it gets through your nose without the barrier. It gets through your mouth without the barrier. And now when Dr. Maryline covers her nose and her mouth, you can see that whatever is coming from her lungs, it has to go through this filter. And what's coming in from the outside to go into her lungs has to go through this filter. Is it perfect? No. But does it significantly improve your chances of getting away from that crowded environment without COVID-19? Absolutely. We talk of the surgical mask and we talked of the cloth, but look, because all of these things are in high demand, I don't expect you to easily get a surgical mask. But you have your two wrapper, you have a cloth, you can convert any of those, and we have too many tailors back home for somebody to be walking around without a cloth face mask. The cloth face mask back home, I actually would strongly advocate for that because you can recycle it. You can take it, wash it, dry it, and then use it again, as opposed to the other mask that will not be handy. Please, if there is one thing you're going to take away from this as your best tool for prevention, is having a cloth-based face mask and being able to wear it the right way, just as Dr. Maryline is putting on right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. And I wanted to point out that I received, I'm sure most of us would have seen it too. I can't put it up here because I needed to upload it before bringing it on. But it says why COVID-19 is spreading fast. Three major reasons. It shows a group of people. The first one, they are my colleagues at work, so I can speak without a mask. You can't take that for granted. You don't know who amongst your colleagues is infected, isn't it? The second, they are my close friends, so I can speak without the mask. Same principle. You can't be in that crowd with friends. They are my relations, so I can speak without mask. Yes, relations. I didn't say the family at home and all that. But it could be your uncle, your aunt who has come in from the village or wherever, and you just say that. Let's no, please. This is very serious. Let's take the mask wearing very serious and do it the appropriate way. Now, Doc, one other thing that we needed to address, and for the sake of time, I'd like us to talk about something that is happening in Cameroon. Many people are afraid of going to the hospital. There is a certain myth that has come up in relation to COVID that the government of Cameroon is struggling to, pile up its numbers so that they can get funding. So anybody who goes to the hospital is now diagnosed with COVID. Any comments?
One, it's unfortunate. Frankly, not every, as Dr. Maryline also alluded to, not every symptom you have is going to be secondary to COVID. And we know that things that are attacked on the front end have a better chance of a good outcome than on the back end. As we also alluded to, you needed to have been in the right environment with the right exposure to be able to be diagnosed with COVID-19. When you go in, you are having a set of symptoms that it has to fall in line for the diagnosis to make sense. Let me give another trivial example. If I'm involved in a motor accident and I break my arm, and the only test they ran on me was COVID, it does not add up. It does not make sense. But if you are having those symptoms we described, and you end up being diagnosed with COVID-19, it should totally make sense because it's everywhere in the environment. And if you've interacted with people, there is that huge chance that you can come down with it. The other thing I caution, though, is 80%, at least 80% of people with COVID-19 will just be walking around like you and I. Look, there is nothing that makes me talking to you right now not to have COVID-19. It's totally possible that I have COVID-19 and you don't know it. And I guarantee you that the next person next to you may actually have it and you don't know it. And that's why that face mask becomes a very, very meaningful recommendation, because you don't know who does and who doesn't. And that also translates to, if you're feeling like me, you don't need to rush to the hospital. If you know that you interacted with somebody who has been diagnosed with COVID-19 and you're feeling like me, now is the time to withdraw and not pass it to your family. Self-isolate. If you start having those symptoms that we described, heading to the point where you're saying, gee, I'm not my normal self, I'm starting to go down, please seek immediate care, because any additional delay in seeking care could be the difference between being alive and being dead. Now, if you are at home before your disease gets critical, before it gets serious to the point where you need to go to the hospital, all those things that Dr. Maryline was discussing are things you should try. As I earlier alluded to, at the worst, it would cause you no harm. At the best, it would help you. So be trying those things. But if you start having this sustained malaise, you're having difficulties with breathing, people not knowing who you are, please, I strongly, strongly urge you not to spend another minute home. If you recall what Dr. Ken said in what you read, Mr. Lambert, he said, I kept watching my sights. I kept monitoring myself and getting ready to call 999 at the least sign of decompensation. That's exactly what everybody should be doing. If you feel that you've come across COVID-19, you have to pay serious attention to yourself and be on the alert for any alarm feature to carry yourself to the hospital and give yourself a better chance of coming out. We have seen many people drop dead at home because they did not seek care in advance. And don't forget, some people will be sick from malaria, some people will be sick from diabetes, some people will be sick because they have a stroke, and some people will be sick because they are having a heart attack. And truly, some people will just be coming down with their new diagnosis of cancer. Do not put it off under the pretext that you are having COVID-19. And by the way, they are not going, the treatment you are having at home, you should also be able to get it in the hospital, plus additional things. Thank you. I'm sure Dr. Maryline has a lot more to also contribute in this area.
Yeah, Dr. Maryline, I think that the one thing I wanted you to focus on before is asymptomatic people, because I think many people are, they just do not know that they have this, isn't it? And we have heard about medical practitioners, medical doctors, nurses, who, for some, through no fault of theirs, okay, they might have contracted this and may be forced to come to work. Okay, so what is again, in addition to what Dr. Fausta said, why should people seek medical help immediately they start feeling these symptoms of COVID-19?
Right. It's very important for them to seek medical help, because the medical doctors and healthcare professionals, they have taken an oath before actually working as a healthcare professional. They have taken an oath to care for people. And they have that knowledge. They have the skills and the knowledge and the treatment that they know for sure that can combat a particular symptom. So, than for you to just stay at home, if you stay at home when let's say your symptoms have gotten worse, it can result in you losing your life when you could have gone to the hospital and received treatment. Now, in reference to what Mr. Lambert just said, unfortunately, we've heard of some nurses that have been tested positive for COVID in Cameroon, and they have to go to work, unfortunately, because if they don't go to work, they don't get paid. And you know how the system is back home. People are struggling, so they find themselves having to go to work. Now, while at work, obviously, I know for sure that they do wear their mask. I want to believe so. So when you are going into the hospital, if you find yourself in a position where you have to go to the hospital, make sure that you carry your mask. Make sure that you wear your mask, whether you're symptomatic or asymptomatic. Wear your mask when you're around the hospital setting. Those who are asymptomatic are the ones that are spreading it more. And just one person can spread to hundreds of people. Interesting enough, you can go to a party, to a burial ground, or in the hospital, and if one asymptomatic person or somebody that has the virus but does not have any symptoms yet, the virus can replicate and get out when they're talking and spread in the air. And as it's spreading in the air, hundreds of people can inhale it, and it goes into the system, and then it becomes they get the virus. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself. Protection is primary. Prevention is primary when it comes to COVID. Wear your mask every time and anytime you are next to any person, whether they look well or not, whether you're in the hospital or not, whether somebody comes and visits you. When somebody comes and visits you, please, please, please tell them to wear their mask. If not, they're not coming into your home. Make sure you protect yourself and protect your next door neighbor by wearing your mask every single time you're out. When you're sick, please, 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 if it becomes serious, seek medical care. On your way to the hospital, take your mask. Wear your mask as you're walking into the door, and seek medical care, please.
So thank you very much. And again, the encouragement is for people, take advantage of the facilities, the medical facilities that are around you in order to combat. Don't seek to do it on your own. Yes, we have talked about basic things that people can do, but once you start feeling overwhelmed by those symptoms, do not stay at home. Do not continue just taking lime, garlic, and lemon when you see that things are becoming really serious. Go to the hospital. At the same time, I've also said people should not just rush to the hospital, isn't it? Don't just rush to the hospital because you see that no, there is a balance that people need to maintain. And even when you are going to the hospital, also try to come along with your masks and do the whatever you can in order to make sure that you do not contract, you do not spread, and you do not contract either ways. Now, the remainder of the time that we have, which is about 5 minutes, let's talk about one other thing, vaccine. Dr. Fausta, there is so much being talked about vaccine these days.
Thank you very much. And I would discuss vaccine as well as what Dr. Maryline just alluded to, sick people going to the hospital. It speaks to the failure of our public health system and the growing distrust between and disconnect between the people, their administrators, and the hospitals. And I think it's important that hospitals and hospital practitioners in that community go out, engage the community, and rebuild that trust and rebuild why it's essential for people to seek care when they need it the most. When it comes to vaccines, I'm very leery about vaccines that are just specific to one population. Unfortunately, as part of this community distrust, these failed government policies, it's led to such a way whereby, a good program will be rejected because a lot of bad programs have been shoved down the throats of these people. We're talking about several people that feel like a knee is constantly sitting on their neck. And each time you present an opportunity to them, they only see a knee sitting on their neck. That speaks to public policy. It speaks to the interaction between the system and the people. So I urge the people to respect respect the authorities, but the authorities have to be able to engage these people in a meaningful way. Otherwise, any program that's good is seen through the lens of a knee on my neck. And frankly, the government has pushed through a bunch of questionable programs that can project some of this myth. When it comes to COVID-19 vaccines, I would implore the research community and the medical community to take control. Look, medicine and politics should not be spoken in the same breath. I am very concerned when a politician who has no knowledge about medicine is the one promoting an idea. Who informed them? I would love some of these things to go through the medical societies, the medical communities, the medical associations to vet it for its appropriateness before it's rolled out to the community. I hate to say it. I don't know somebody who's got a PhD in international relations, being the voice of the people when it comes to vaccines. And I've seen too much of that. And unfortunately, that only deepens the divide between the people and the administration and their trust for the system. At this point, I've not seen enough honesty on the side of the government to be able to vouch for what they claim to be public policy. But I've gone through medical school, I've interacted with a lot of the medical practitioners back home, and just as Dr. Maryline said, we all take an oath to do best by our patients. So when the final encounter is between you and that physician, I'm trusting, just like myself, when you have the encounter with me, that the oath of medical practice takes precedence over the politicization of medical care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for those watching, I'd like to say, please, if you are a medical doctor, you are a nurse, you are a pharmacist, or you are a medical practitioner anywhere in the world, and you are from Southern Cameroon, so you have sympathies please consider becoming a member of the Southern Cameroons Medical Society. You can find out about the society. I've put up the address there, www.scms-globals.org. Please consider this is not a political organization. It has nothing to do with the politics. It is medical practitioners coming together to try to build a better medical network for that part of the world. So we're encouraging as many of our people, medical doctors, we need you. We need you. We have a wonderful social media platform where interesting conversations are going on. A lot of information is being shared. The story that I read out to you by Dr. Ken was shared on that platform. And it's only because of this initiative that we have today that we're able to share this out. We're going to put up a lot of information. Tomorrow we are launching our series on COVID-19. We'll have an information that will go on our website. We are encouraging people to visit the website. Again, please, there are many opportunities for people to learn about COVID-19 and how to stay away, hold themselves so that they are able to avoid this pandemic. So please, while the remainder of the time, I would like to have a closing remarks. Dr. Maryline, any last words?
Yes, I want to really thank SCMS for this opportunity. It is an honor to be part of SCMS. And like Mr. Lambert just said, we are a group of professionals that are there to pretty much collectively use our experience, our knowledge to help our people back home. It's a huge honor to be in this organization. I've networked with a lot of physicians and other healthcare professionals, and I really pray that we can expand. More healthcare professionals should please join the organization so we can network together and collectively do what we can to help our people.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maryline, and I really want to appreciate you. You had to juggle around a few things in order to accommodate this, and this is just the first of a series. Every other week we'll be on with something. I would announce the next program. Dr. Fausta.
Thank you very much, and Mr. Lambert, thank you, Dr. Maryline, for this very constructive, fruitful exchange as it pertains to the health of our people, particularly those of Southern Cameroon's extraction and the world at large. You know, one of our core missions is to remain professional and to reach out to our people with evidence-based approaches and information in a timely manner that can save lives. As medical practitioners and professionals, we come to you on oath, and as the people we engage with in our community, we want to emphasize that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Prevention is better than cure. That's how we sing it growing up back home. Things we have alluded to here will not be meaningful if we lose you because of carelessness. In this partnership, we want to play our part, and we want you to play our part. We want you to remain curious and inquisitive so that collectively we can transform the experience. I urge you all to recognize that a healthy economy requires a healthy population. No wonder a third of the world's resources are geared towards ensuring a good, healthy population. Please, we urge you to, in the context of COVID-19, to always maintain physical and social distancing, to always have your face mask handy and use it appropriately, and to always remember that when your symptoms are aggressive, you need to seek medical care because that gives you the best chance of staying alive. I thank the executive director of the Southern Cameroons Medical Society for initiating this platform, and hopefully every other week, members of the medical society will have an opportunity to engage with our people on topics that are contemporary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the panelists for spending your Sunday with us. I want to thank the audience, those who joined us. And like I said, this is going to be every other week. Our next session is going to be the 2nd of August, and we are going to be treating something which is prevalent. This is within the context of the International Day for Hepatitis. If you have problems, you want to hear about hepatitis and what to do with it, join us same time, Sunday, 2nd of August at 10 a.m. We'll have a very vibrant and lively discussion. We are also going to continue talking about COVID. If you have questions, you have things that you want us to address, go to our website again, scms/global.org, www.scms/global.org. You can find me online. You can go to my Facebook page and send me a message. We'll be able to reach out. Thank you again. Thank you for your time. And we hope you enjoyed the show today, first of our series, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go, please, I want to say it's 3 p.m. Buea time, not 10 a.m. It's always 3 p.m. Buea time.
3 p.m. Buea time. Thank you. Okay.
Yes.
Bye and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.